rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years and let her sew again.
Hello everybody, welcome back. So as you can see, I call her Big Red. She is painted red and gold. And I did put her wheel on because after I got her out, I just wanted to make sure everything was still turning well, and it is. And if you notice, when I took her apart, the wheel was flipped the other direction, but I like it this way. I like the big wheel on the outside, and I think I'm going to have enough room here for a belt to go down on the outside. If I'm not, well, then I can flip it. But for right now, I'm going to leave it like that. So most of the deconstruction work that I did was up here. That's where most of it was. I left the gears intact, and I left the hook in there. Just did not want to deal with that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the bottom part together first because there's a lot less to go on down there. And once that is done, then we'll start working here. So let me get my stuff together and we'll get started. Okay, so down here, this is my bobbin case that I cleaned up. Let me see if I can just drop it in. I believe I can. There was this little arm here that should come in over on this side. Right here and link over. Is that how it goes? No. Okay, there's a little pin inside here. Let me see if I can get you closer. All right. Right here, there's a tiny pin in there. Let's try this. If you can see, right in here where my dirty finger is pointing inside there, there's a little pin. I'm going to put this little U shape over it. It took me a second to figure out the right position for the bobbin case. So now I'm going to go ahead and come back with this little arm. Stick it over here and close it up. And there is a little threaded hole that's going to go down right here, and I have a tiny little screw to put that together. Okay, I got it in. Took a minute to get it settled in right, but I think we are good now. So I'm going to go ahead and put this bottom piece back on. I did already put some grease on the gears on the bottom, not nearly the big clods of grease that were in there before, but a nice little coating. And I got this polished up, so I'm just going to see how it's going to look. Well, that's going to look a lot better. It was quite rusty before. Let's see here. I have this little bar and a couple screws and a bigger screw. So let me back you out again. Okay, over here on the side there was a screw that was kind of wedged in at an angle, so I'm not going to stress out if mine is kind of wedged in. Nope, that looks good. Okay. Now underneath, I'm going to have to tip her over, move her big face plate on the side here, but I'm going to have to tip her over on her back to get to underneath here. Okay, so I got two little holes down here, and this plate is going to go up against that, and they get cinched on. Let me just see if I can just hold this and get them started this way, because there's not really room for a little screwdriver in here. Okay, let me get these started up and cinched on, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that that is on, the plate here has this little cutout. That cutout is what's going to hold the bobbin in place. So I'm believing I want that little nub forward so that it will fall into that little slot. And if I turn the wheel now, the bobbin is staying stationary, so I feel good about that. So let me go ahead, I got 2 screws to attach it onto either side. Let me go ahead and put those on. Alright, so now that that is on, there's this cute little slide plate. Goes in, and actually I want to make sure that that little slot is clear, and it is. Okay, nice. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and put that little pre-wound bobbin in here. Let's see if there's an easy way to lift this arm. Okay, let me get that little bobbin and pop it on there, just so when it comes time, I have something in there already. So this is the one I was talking about, and I have not ordered other bobbins for it yet. Looking to see how it's supposed to set. You know what, let me look at the little book and see if it tells me. I shall read for you. Right down here, place the bobbin in the machine so that the unwinding thread will turn in the same direction that the hook runs. Hold the end of the thread with the left hand, and with the tweezers in the right hand, see figure 3. Guide the thread down into the slot under the rim of the bobbin case, drawing it around towards the needle under the tension spring on the bobbin case, and close the latch. Okay, so the hook, when I'm turning it towards me, and I'm assuming that I am turning the hook towards me here, is going this way, so that's the way I put it in. And dropping it on, and then with tweezers guiding it down into a slot under here, under the tension spring. I'm going to flop that down. I think that's it. I think that then the needle will pick it up, because that's where the tension spring is, under there, I believe. So I'm just going to let that kind of hang out in the front. Oh, you know what? I bet that's what this slot is for. There we go. And if that's not correct, we'll fix that later. But right now we got a lot of stuff to do up here. And it seems to be pulling okay, so that's good. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to reverse the process of taking this apart. I just tap this little thread guide in, and there is not a little screw in here, so I'm hoping that I have the screw in one of my bags somewhere. The first thing I need to do is slide this on here, but I am going to put a good coating of oil on there first, and loosen up this little set screw here to try to open it up a bit, and slide it into place. Oh please, oh please. Remember, it was very tight coming off. Okay, it is on. Look at that. All right. I need to somehow tighten it with a screw a bit. So I'm just gonna drop it in there. Because that is tight. Okay. I want that front face even. If I turn it, it's moving nicely. That is good. That is what I want. All right. All right, so now I've got this little piece, and I want to get a lot of oil in all of these oil holes and bearings. and moving parts. Make sure it all goes good. Okay, I'm going to bend it like this. This little part goes in here. This part goes in there. Let's throw more oil in there, shall we? Yes, we shall. Oh my goodness. And I need to remember which way this was bent. It can't be that way. Or can it? Hang on a second, let me check. Yes, that is correct. So let's push it in. And now double check that everything still turns. And it does, and this bearing turns freely. This ring here was bound up on that cog when I first was taking this apart, and that's what was keeping it all stuck. So I think hopefully we're not going to have any problems here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get the lifter lever put on. This is it. It's pretty big. There's a knurled nut, knurled screw kind of thing that goes in here. I'm just going to get that started for right now. And then up here, oh, you know what? I should not have gotten that started because I can't slide it in. This slides into this slot here first. Look at that. So let's go ahead and put this big one in first, shall we? Yes, we shall. This is a shouldered screw, so I should be able to drive it in all the way. Okay, that's good. Now putting this through here, and I'm going to stretch it up a bit so I can get it threaded into this hole right here. Okay, so it's like that. I'm not too sure how I'm going to be attaching this. I might just put a handle on it to pull. I mean, technically I should be connecting it down to a foot pedal or a knee lever or something down below, but for right now it just is what it is here. Okay, so back up front. Okay, I'm going to do the thread and take up lever. So this is it. Now it has a separate little piece. I've oiled them so it'll work nicely together that goes on this way. Come on, pop back in there for me now. Oh my goodness. It's very tight, but I did oil it. There it goes. Okay, so that turns. Up here, if you can see, there is a little notch in the top there. When I slide this in, I need to make sure that that little finger that sticks out is lined up with that notch. So just come in here. This lines up inside the groove in there. This was a bit of a pistol to get out, so give me a minute to get it wiggled in place. All right, so I got it in, but now that it's in, I need to rotate this little finger. While I'm holding it here, rotate that little finger up into the right position. Almost. And it's almost there. Oh my goodness. Well, hopefully you can see what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to rotate this little pin, which is a bit stiff, not gonna lie. And while that's in the right position up here, I'm getting the threaded hold lined up with that opening. All right, so it is in there. Ignore that clicking, that's just this thing falling around. Okay, next piece. I've got this piece here, which is going to slide over those two little posts. Oil, oil, oil. And this is going to be inside of it, like that. Now there's a bearing that slides over this post and should ride inside of here. And it is. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so right here, a big bolt is going in this opening. this. And I do have a screw, which is going to go at the end here, but there's something else that's going to be going on top of that before I put this screw on. So I'm just going to set that over by my oil bottle for a minute. But yeah, that's looking pretty good so far. I feel like this should be pushed in more. No, maybe not. I guess that's it. It's just the way it's shaped. Okay. All right, I'm going to try to get this needle bar put together. This is going into this slot here. It does move up and down. Okay. The needle bar is going to slide up here. And I had one of these stringy oil wick kind of things here. I'm just sliding it back on. I feel like I should make a new string. What do you think? Let me see if I can make a new string here. I just cut some of my braided wick here to hopefully a close enough size and put a little square knot in it. Okay. Slide that down here. That's going to get soaked in oil. Then it goes through this, which is my needle bar clamp. And this still feels tight. Very tight. I don't know. I'm going to keep working with it until I can get this pushed all the way up through here and that it can move freely up and down inside these blocks. Right. So at this point, that is in. Now I have this little piece that's coming in down here on the lower side. It looks similar, but one side fit in a lot better. Okay. Then this bar goes over it, but there's a big gap because this fits in between. Like that. Okay. So I want to make sure that everything is moving very freely in there. I'm going to throw some more oil in, then we'll get it attached. Alrighty, I am back. Stepped out for a bit. So I have this piece here, kind of put together. I need to get this part here in this hole up at the top, and this is going to line up on top of that little piece. So let's see if I can get all of this in appropriately. Put this down here. Over the top there, push it in. Is it moving? Yes, it is. Okay, so before that comes off, I'm going to go ahead and put this little screw back over here to hold that in place. There's a tiny little piece that goes on here that I'm going to screw back on. It's this little thing. Okay. So let me get that put back on. I need to track down that tiny little screw. Alright, right there. So I have this on, but if you watch the take apart video, I had a lot of trouble getting this piece off, and I had to do it last, which is why I put it back on first. But after, everything was said and done, I realized that one of my problems was that I didn't realize I can unscrew this needle bar clamp from the back, or it was stuck or something, I don't even know. But there was a whole lot of issues of working around this to get the background stuff in. So what I'm going to do is, I know I just put this in, I'm going to go ahead and take this screw out, pull this whole little mechanism out, and set it aside, now that it's kind of put together, and work on the stuff in the background, and then try to put this back on on top of it. That's what I'm going to try to do here. Because another thing that is confusing to me, I'll show you in 1 second here, is, come on, where this piece goes, okay? So, I need to check, I think I just put this back on wrong. But this has to hook onto something, and it's kind of in the background over here, behind all of this. So whatever it needs to hook onto, I think that if I get the background stuff put in first, it'll make more sense. Again, I'm going to put this little screw in there so I don't lose it. Lightly, and take a look at some of these other parts. I know this goes in the back up here to lock in the back of that long column, so that's not a big issue. I'm just going to pop it on here for right now so I don't lose it either. Does not want to just pop on, but there it goes. Okay, I want to show you. I have figured one of my mysteries out, and this little piece here, at one point it fell out while I was disassembling and I did not get a good idea of where it went, but it fits well in this other little place here. Now this is the stitch length mechanism, and it gets mounted back behind here, but this round with a cutout, this round with a cutout. So I am betting that that will fit on there. Pretend there's a big piece of casting right here that's going through there, so that this is then operating the stitch length. Okay, so that is a great mystery. Figured out there is a washer and a screw that holds it on from the outside. For right now, I'm just keeping all of that together. Now that we understand, you know, where this little piece goes, so I don't need to worry about finding a home for it. That is still leaving me with this one up here, you know, and I believe that that is traveling on the needle bar. So as this is going to move up and down, it's going to pull the needle bar clamp up and down and move the needle bar up and down. I'm not sure exactly the needle bar placement. I will figure that out later because I can get to it from the back, so I can adjust this placement later. I'm going to go ahead and put the regular lifter lever in, which is underneath this one. Let's see how this is going to work. That is the wrong way. Let's put it in this way. How will that work? I'm trying to figure out how that works with this one here. Let me take a peek. Oh, I'm not exactly sure. I'm hopeful that it will work itself out later. I'm just going to go ahead and put this screw in. Just to figure it out. Okay, so that is in. But if you see, at this point, if I lift this, it doesn't really affect this one at all. So I'm not too sure. But this isn't bothering anything else either, so you know, that's okay. I'm putting this back in just because if I'm putting things on top of it, you know, I don't want to block it, but look, it kind of bounces out almost like there's a spring in there. And I looked in there with the flashlight. I don't see a spring, but it's acting very springy. Okay, so while I am working on this stuff, there's another bar that's going to go in here. This is a walking foot, so there's one part that looks like a big foot and one that looks like a little leg with a tippy toe. And it's that little leg with the tippy toe that I'm going to be working on here. Hang on. Lots of little things. Get my magnet and put it away. sure nothing is in the corners. Okay. So, doesn't that look like a little tiny leg there? Anyway, I need to take a peek at how this is all going to work. This is the thread guide, so it is up at the top, obviously, making sure that comes down smoothly. I don't think this one had one of those little strings on it, but we're going to need to slide this on, and I need to see if it's supposed to be above or below this piece. Alright, so I can see that this sliding part is going to need to be up here, okay? And I'm going to throw oil in there because that makes everybody happy. It's going to move freely. Why aren't you moving freely? Hang on. Yeah, that's good, that's good. Okay. Alright, so with that in place like that, setting that aside, I'm going to slide this down here. It's not going through that hole. Do I have this on backwards? I just might. Is it supposed to be this way? Well, that lines up, so obviously that's the right direction. Okay, let me push that all the way down. Before I do, add more oil in this hole. Making sure it's going to go down all the way here. All right. Now, I have a little set screw. Is it the right size for this hole? It is. I'm going to get this started. I'm not going to cinch it up because I don't know exactly the final placement, but I know that if I don't get it started, it'll be a lot more difficult later on to cinch it in. Alright, so if this is the top here, from the front it's going to look like this. And that looks a lot like my before pictures, so I am happy with that for right now. Yeah, so down here at the bottom, if it's on this way, this little foot is going to need to be pointing towards the front. And that is as high as it's going to go, right there. I'm going to look at my before pictures and see if it was just, you know, at that spot. You can see the old brass brazing, which is doing well. My gut says that is the correct spot, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten it just a hair, but then I'll just go double check my old video really quick to make sure that's going to work. So with that there, out of curiosity, I'm going to try to put a needle in here. Make sure everything is going to be lined up. Let me back this screw out a bit. I believe I need to turn this needle. This needle has 2 grooves, but I believe I thread it front to back, so the longer groove is in the front. I believe. Okay. That is as high as it's going to go. So if it's like this, and I push this needle bar down, it goes through that little hole in the tiny foot. So I think that is correct. And I feel good about this placement too. Okay. Yeah. Now, the only other thing for this piece is this fork, okay? So this fork is what's connecting here to here. So let me get myself organized real quick. Okay, so I just slid this piece on. There's a little square bearing that it goes on down here. But look, this is the end of the big lifter lever. When I pull it down, it's going to push that over. So I believe that's how this lifter lever works, whereas this one is going to do something else, obviously. Something that's going to connect up here. This square up there is what this square is going to sink into. And I think I'm almost at the point where I can put that in, but I do have something over here that's going to need to be put in first. All right, so I've got these two pieces, okay, and they go together this way. All right, this long piece is going to slide up and down in here. Should be above where this lifter lever is, okay? So if I can get them in place, and there's this piece behind it, I believe that these are going to line up like that, okay? I may have to tip her on her back just so that things don't fall out because I don't have gravity working with me here. Okay, so now that she is on her back, again, getting some oil. I'm going to drop this long bolt through here, and hopefully it is lined up down on the bottom. Not anymore, it's not lined up. Oh, for crying out loud. Hang on. Okay. All right, give me a second to move you away so I can get this screwed in. So I've got it on with the screw in the back, but this feels very far out. Look, it's way over here, almost off the edge, and that doesn't feel right to me. So, but that's really the only way it could be. Okay, let me double check something. So actually, if I rotated the foot just a hair, then it's even with the edge. So I think that's my deal. While I have it pushed all the way down, I'm going to go ahead and get the two little set screws that are going to clamp this on in here. And get those put in so at least I have something a little bit stable, you know. Okay, let me get those cinched on. And this one over here. You can't see that. All right. Okay, so while those are cinched on, I'm going to put this back up here into the top, push it down, and start turning it. Okay, you see it starting to come out up there. I don't remember exactly how far this was in, but it needs to be a pretty hefty amount of spring there. Yep, that's a hefty amount of spring. Okay, this did have another little string around it down here, so you know what? I'm going to go ahead and tie one on. Okay, so since all of that is on, I'm going to go ahead and try to get this part popped back on place. Let's see here. I know this is going to be through this hole over here. Okay, and this starts up at the top, this presses over that, this eye here is going to be over the top of, you can see this little piece. So I need to kind of line everything up at once and wiggle down. That is impossible. That is impossible. Hang on a sec. Okay, I think this is going to work better. I've got that on, this piece. This one I have just kind of straight up, which is going to match up with this one here. This needs to match up with this. This needs to match up on the top. So I need to move this down. Okay, so that will match up there. Whoops, lift you back up again because I did not get it in there exactly. It's almost there, if you can see. Everything's almost lined up. It's just very tight. So I'm going to play with it for a minute. Okay, I got it in there. One thing is I needed to make sure that there's a little square bearing like this one that's up here. I need to make sure that that was squared off as I was pushing in. It's tricky, not gonna lie, it's tricky. I had to take out the little screw for the needle bar clamp, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that in. Trying to do it because this is very short in here. I am not at all sure what the exact needle bar height needs to be. I'm just going to have to kind of figure that out once I actually have thread in there and try to make it work. Okay, I am about to call it a night. I think I'm at a decent stopping point here. A couple things I wanted to point out. I have spent a considerable amount of time off camera working on this. When I was putting it together, I think I showed that I had that one little eyelet straight up and down. That was wrong. It had to be over here to the side. So I've got that corrected at this point. And I was trying to figure out how to get the presser bar at the right height. And in the book it says, well, it comes from the factory with timing marks at about 3/4 of an inch up the shaft. Well, at some point, those timing marks have long since disappeared. So what I did is kind of work this like I would a 66 in theory, where, oh, I don't even know if you can see. I put a couple little pencil marks there, and that gap in between is about what the gap on timing marks on like a 66 or something like that would be. Oh. If I put a ruler up next to it, it's about a little over 1/16 of an inch, a little under 1/8 of an inch, okay? It works for me. So what I did is at the lowest needle position in the back here, I can reach through here and loosen and tighten that needle clamp. So I came down here, pulled all this stuff off so I could see where the hook was. When I had the eye of the needle right in front of the hook, going back up the stroke, so I had come down to the lowest position and then continued to turn the wheel towards me until starting it so that this point is level with the bottom. Why aren't you focusing here? So I started out with this little slider level here. When I got it up to here, that's when I made sure my hook was in the front, and I'm not taking it off right now because it just gives me torment. But I had the eye of the needle slightly lower than that hook. And I say slightly because the needles on this machine are so different than the needles on a regular machine that I was eyeballing it. But I think I eyeballed it right because it will pick up that thread. And then I had to go through and reset the bobbin tension, which meant taking it all apart, pulling the bobbin case out, adjusting it, because you can only adjust the tension on the bobbin case with it out of the machine, and getting it back in is a pistol, let me tell you. But I think the feet are working right. I think the needle is working right, but there is still a lot to do in the whole faceplate. All of this, and these are a whole, there's like 3 different sets of tension units and guides and tiny screws, and I can't deal with that right now, so I'm going to set that aside. I'll deal with that tomorrow. But I think this is a good stopping point. So far so good. I'm feeling confident now. There was a time when I was not, about half an hour ago, but I am feeling confident now, so I will see you. Well, in you, it's just going to be next scene, but for me, it'll be tomorrow. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next day. So one thing I want to get done before I get into the faceplate is this stitch length regulator system. Looking like this. There's the numbers, if anybody can look those up. Alright, out here there's a little peg that sticks out, which is going to go on this part. And then this is going on that cog we put in. It's got a flat part over here I can feel, so it needs to go this way so that that flat can line up. Let's see. Whoopsie. Put that on wrong. Hang on. That needs to be back there, but hang on. I'm going to take this screw off here because I feel like this needs to get rotated a bit. So, see, that just comes off. If this is going to be up here, that can't be. That cannot be. It needs to be if that is there, does it turn? It has to turn. It did turn before, so what is going on? Oh, do I have this in the wrong position? Please tell me I don't have this in the wrong position. Well, we are going to make the most of this. It doesn't look like in my take apart video that it moved that much, but I did not put this washer in correctly, so let me pull it out again. Alright, cleaned up cup washer. Going on this way. This pops over it. Here. Lining up the flat part. There, the flat part is lined up. This goes over that, like so, and my largest screw, can't see that. Probably should have tipped her down while I did this so gravity would help me, but I just don't feel like turning her and balancing her. She wants to roll when I put her on her nose because she's not squared off down there. Okay, now I need to put this little screw back in here. I can't imagine she's gonna have a huge amount of play. I feel like I need to tighten it up a bit so that that spring washer can do what it needs to do. So that is tighter. Well, it has a bit of movement, and maybe that's all there is. That might just be all there is. So we're going to call it good. Right now I have pushed it all the way forwards. So, and now I'm going to push it all the way backwards. Oh, it wants to move forward. I think it just is what it is. I don't even know. Look, it's wiggling. That seems like a fine-tuning issue for future Marie, because I don't know if it was doing that before, because she was locked up when I was trying her out before. Maybe it's so I could physically hold it. No, see, this is going to want to turn. This here is going to want to turn because it's set here to work with the needle bar and everything. I think it just is what it is. Okay. So much to do. When I was painting her, I did not put paint on the sides here because when she was stripped, it was very shiny up here and everything else was really coarse. So I had the idea that maybe that shouldn't have paint, but now I'm thinking it wouldn't have mattered. But it's going to be fine, no problem. Back here, I'm going to start out. This is a tension release system, believe it or not. Okay. So, I believe it was going this way because it's needing to be up against things here, up here. So when this goes up and down, it's going to bump up against this and want to tip it in like that. So I'm going to need to get these two screws in here. They look the same to me. They just have a little shoulder. Sorry, I know you didn't see that. They just have a little shoulder on them, so I'm going to go ahead and get them started. Down here, it is a lovely Saturday morning here today. Not terribly hot yet, but it's going to be humid. All right, now this one is the tricky one. How to get it in there. Wow. It's kind of hard because that's right in my way. If I got a skinny screwdriver, can I just make little turns? I think so. Okay, let me get this cinched in. So that is tightened up all the way. Those screws have a shoulder, so it will still be loose even when they're cinched in. Okay. So even though it looks strange, that's how it's supposed to be. Now this up here in front of this hole, that is where when the main tension, the regular tension with the flat discs and everything is going to be. There's another one down here. But when this gets pulled out like that, that's going to release tension. So that's pretty cool. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get this unit out next. Okay, so I'm going to put this little peg in so it's horizontal. And I have a little set screw here. It's going to come in the side like this. Tighten it up. There's sad news to report. As you know, we live in the middle of nowhere. And, we have predators. It is what it is. And they've been getting the chickens. And at this point, we don't have any more roosters. All of the roosters have been killed and taken away. I just put the little tension release pin in there. So, yeah, I have 3 hens and a few young chicks out there. And I think one of those chicks is a rooster, so hopefully eventually we'll have roosters sounding off again. But life in the country and predators, you know. Anyway, these have a little notch cut out, and there's a pin there that's going to hold it. Flipping it. That can't work. Look, if I put this way, that's not going to line up with that notch. I need to turn this whole little center pin so it's vertical and not horizontal, as normally is done. So that can fit in. You know, learning as we go here. Okay. And pushing this down a bit, I'm going to get this little nut started. So, back here, I don't know if you can see, the pin is right here up against it. So if I push this, or if I release it, I'd say, it's not coming out. That means I need to add more tension, possibly. It's a very short tension release pin. Maybe that little washer was supposed to be underneath because this pin is so short. I need just a small amount of space. Oh, come on, Marie. Back here. Okay. Nope, that can't be because there's the gap there for the washers. And I do have that pin pushed in all the way, so I think that's just the way it is. You can see here the little line where the thread is, because the thread, it just comes in from the side and wraps down. So it's kind of worn a tiny little groove there. I wonder if I can flip these the other direction. No, you still see a bit of a groove. I can only clean them up so much. And this has to go that way. Oh, look, look. If this pushes up all the way, then I can feel it releasing. So it is working. Okay, we're good. I had to wiggle it. Something was off center, so now I can push this and get wiggles, let it go, no wiggles. Okay, so that is the first one. Now we've got this guy down here. All right, so this one has a lot of tiny pieces, and I am going to try to just stack it up as it should be. So, yeah, this is actually going to go this direction, and I believe this tiny little washer is up here. Hang on a sec. Okay, so let's get started here. First of all, I did not take this off in my video, but after this went through the stripper, it was loose enough that it could come out. So that fits in this hole here. And looking at my video from before, it looks like this little slit is slightly up this way, kind of pointing to where this piece of the casting is right there. I want to hold that and flip it over. Oh, there's got to be, oh, over here, over here. There's a place for this little set screw to go in. And I need to get that in place. Wrong tool for the job, Marie. Hang on. Let me get this one on. I posted a link to a source that sells these. Mine didn't come from that one, but I couldn't find the place I got mine, but they are a quick wedge number 1253. In my opinion, they are the best tool in the world. Okay, I can feel it cinching up now, so let me tighten that. All right, so first step is good. I have this little spring, and it has a little wire sticking out on the side, and that wire sits in that slot, like so, so that I have spring going upward. Okay. All right, so I'm trying to stack these up how I think it will make sense. And so, yeah, I think I have this turned upside down here. Hang on a sec, let me double check. All right, so I'm setting this tiny little piece for right now over this one in the middle. And it has this tiny screw that needs to go through there. Okay, I'm just holding it in place right now. Now, this tiny washer is going on behind it, like that. And this little pulley thing is sitting on here. And this is setting over the entire thing and screwing on up here on top. I believe. Come on. Okay, so that's kind of holding together for the moment here. Why do I feel like I am missing things? I feel like I'm missing something. Hang on. Okay, I had this middle one upside down, so I flipped it over, and now it feels a lot better. That bottom part is fitting in that little groove down there. So I'm going to slide this little washer. You know, I'm going to do this over my tray in case I drop something here. Sliding that little washer in there. Can I line up all of those holes? Hopefully. And get this little part on top here. Goodness, that's the wrong size screwdriver. This is way too big, but I just need something to grab it better. Okay, it's at least holding together now, so. All right, that feels a lot more sturdy. Okay, so that's what it's looking like from the top. This screw is coming down here. I need to get all of these guys lined up like this. And get this one in place. But there's got to be something to go straight down the middle. Okay, so that is good. But what is going down the middle? I don't have any more screws. I wonder if I have this piece down here down too far or something, because there's got to be something in here to hold it all together. Okay, so I looked at my take apart video and there was nothing here, but this is very similar to the Wheeler & Wilson 9D, D9, whatever it is. So I have one of those as a parts machine. So I have just grabbed the screw that fits there on that machine, and I am hopeful that it's going to fit on here. Ooh, and it is fitting there. Yes. Yes, yes. So I think someone commented, was it Joe? I don't remember. Someone commented asking about the number, because this is a 123W1, and I think the one at the end is they had like a 1, 2, and a 3. A 123 1, a 123 2, you know, like that. But the W might be related to Wheeler & Wilson, which would make sense because that screw fits it. So, you know, that's another clue in her origin story there, but I feel a lot, oh, you know what? That's wrong. Look, it's totally off center there. I think I might have this piece wrong. I don't know. Let me go ahead, loosen, and figure this out. This spring needs to be in that slot. I think I didn't have the spring in the right place. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tighten it back up. That looks better. Okay, so now that spring is springing. This is sticking out a bit, almost like this screw is in too far, if that's possible. No? I guess it's okay. I think it's okay. I guess we'll see when I actually start using it if it's working or not. Just going to tighten everything down. It looks like it should work. Okay, so now I've got to go grab, I think it's this one or this one, I don't remember. I'll just grab one. All right, so flipping her around, up here at the top, I've got this one. The little spring goes onto, and I've got these two little discs going on like that, so it has some spring, and it pushes through here. I don't remember how far that was sticking out on the other end. I need to go take a peek at that. I'm going to get this little set screw started here. Okay, let me go take a peek how far that was sticking out before. Looking at my other video, it looks like this was pushed out so that it is the same length out as that pin on the bottom. So that's probably my guide. So I'm just going to hold it in place. And there we go. Okay. That's good. All right, we are making progress here. All right, so down here, I've got a place to get a little set screw started, and I'm going to do that before I do stuff from the front, because that way, hopefully, it won't fall out while I'm holding things. Right here. That is the right one, right? Yes. Look at this screw. It's like flattened, if you can see. These two sides are flat. See that? I'm not sure how that's going to work. But I'm going to try to get it started in there anyway, but because it's kind of flattened, it wants to go in crooked, so give me a sec here. Okay, so I got that little set screw started, and this piece, you know, it's got little cutouts because it has a place for thread to loop through. And it's going to make sure I put it in the right position because there's a flat side here that's going to go up against the set screw, which is on the inside, so it'll be like this. Okay, so I'm going to put this little washer on like that, so it sets into it. I think the little hat comes next, and then the spring under the little hat. Okay, so I want to make sure I have my flat side on the right side over here. Should be about like that. And it looks like it is coming all the way up, so that's good. Tighten that in. Ooh, I feel it cinching into the flat part, so I feel good about that. So let me get a piece of thread here. I think, oh, come on, hold still. See, that just feels way too tight to me. I'm going to let it recess just a hair. Hang on. Because it's not, the thread was not even going through. Okay, so the hook was on this side. How was that supposed to hook in there? Ah, there it goes. Okay. Did you see that? So when I pulled it in here and then wrapped it around, well, it did it before. Hang on. It did do it before. Hang on. If I pull it like that, maybe. Okay, maybe I need to do that. Pull it down together, because now it's inside of that internal hook. And it's going to hold it like that. So I think that's the key. And now there's enough give there that the spring can do its springy thing, and all is well. We are just about done. before I put it in, this thing had a lot of grease in it before when I took it apart. So I am just going to try to put grease on a lot of the moving parts in here, because maybe that's what they wanted you to do. I'm not going to load it up as much as, you know, what they had before, because it was kind of excessive in my opinion. It was like full. But they did have it all over the place, so, you know. Once I have it on here, I'll get a brush and kind of smooth it out. But once I have all of this done, then I'm going to go ahead and get the faceplate mounted. There's 2 screws that's going to hold it on like that. All right, I just screwed it on. I haven't even turned the wheel yet. Moment of truth. Will it turn? It is turning. Huh. Look at that. Okay, we're just going to spend a moment before I get into all of the frustration of trying to get everything fixed, of how cool that looks. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead, pull that bobbin thread out through the little slot here, put a spool up on top, and see if I can get her to actually work. Okay, so good news and bad news. She is making stitches. They're very small. And granted, I'm using a huge leather needle on a piece of muslin. This is popping out. I need to open up the faceplate and get this secured again. And yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and do that, run into the house, get a piece of leather that I can try her out on. And I don't have a motor for her right now, but I'm also thinking that I could probably pop her onto my universal treadle and use her like an old school treadle, and we'll just see if we can get that to work. Okay, so over here on my table, as you can see, the front is off because I am struggling. I have been playing with this and playing with it. I got on my treadle here. And here is my dilemma. I am having a lot of trouble dealing with the stitch length, getting a nice long stitch length. This back, I can only move so far. But if you see this little piece here, it moves up and down freely on its own, okay? And when it's moving, that is what is moving this whole big long piece here, which is going to give me the really nice long stitch length. And I went back and I looked at my take apart videos a whole lot, and I just don't see how I can get it to get a long stitch length. It's just baffling me. So that's reverse. Basically all the way up is reverse, and it does have reverse, you know, which is cool. All the way down should be the longest stitch. All right, but this is not moving all the way over. So I've been practicing on a little piece of leather, you know, without the thread, because I can't run thread unless I have the front on for tension. And if I really pull on the back side, you know, not terribly hard, but enough, I can get a decent length, but not the really long, the really long length that I want for a leather sewing machine. And yeah, it's about to kick my rear. Okay, so I had a comment on the last video wondering if a size 15 bobbin would fit in here. And we are going to give it a try. Now, this has got to be the most pain in the patootie of a machine to get the bobbin in. And let me see if I can move you over here. Okay, so what I want you to look at is inside this bobbin case, there's a little line right here, a little groove. All right, on the outside of the bobbin case, you cannot see it, trust me. Inside here is the little outside spring, okay? And at the end of that little spring here, it comes to like a little fork like that the thread needs to pass through. But in order to get it in there, you have to use tweezers, and it is a pain. And I have not been able to get a bobbin in, and I don't know why it's doing that. I have not been able to get a bobbin into this thing without taking off this plate that goes up here. It blocks the thread flow and it jams up. So what I've been having to do, and honestly, this machine is 2 minutes away from me deciding it's an ornament and not a functional machine. That is how frustrated I am with it. But anyway, I'm going to use a 15 because I just popped one in, an empty one, and it seemed to fit. So what you do is it says, see the direction that the hook is traveling? Okay, you're going to put it in so your thread is going that direction. But here's the thing. It has to be able to go through that funky little slot there and around the front. Now mind you, while that front little plate is off, hang on, let me go get tweezers. While that little plate is off, that is the bracket that keeps the bobbin case from rotating, you know? So we've got that going against us too. All right, so it says thread in left hand, tweezers in right hand. Put it in here, pull it around the front so it's underneath here, underneath that little spring. And I can only guess it's under the spring because I can't see it, okay? So I think it's in there. Now I'm going to drop that on and close it. And it seems to fit, but it's not spinning. Why are you not spinning? Is the center too small? I don't know. I don't know. So a 15 is not spinning. Maybe it's too tight. I also brought up a type L. Let's see if that will fit in there. Maybe. I don't have any thread on it. I'm just going to hand wind some thread onto this little type L bobbin and see if that will work. Okay, and I'm doing that because this bobbin that it came with, this thread, it's old. It's very strong, but it's old, and I don't know. I just want to be able to come up with an alternative to it, you know? So anyway, let's try this again. First of all, get this into the little slot. I'm using black thread, which was probably a mistake because it's harder to see. So it's, oh my gosh, in that slot, bringing it forward. Nope, that didn't work. Well, let me keep trying. Okay, so with this bobbin, if I pull the thread, it is spinning well. So that's a good thing. All right, I need this plate on or else it won't sew. So I'm just gonna get it set up here like that. And I need to get that bobbin case positioned right. I think I have done it. Okay, there's a couple little screws there to hold it on. I'm gonna go put those on. Okay. Just going to slide this plate on with the thread sticking out the little slot there just to get started. Make sure it's still turning. It's not turning. Well, let's take that off because that's going to complicate things. I have some heavier thread. Ooh, let me back you up. Some heavier thread here. It just seemed like the right thing to put on. So up here at the top, there's a thread guide. And another thread guide, okay, going there to there. Ooh, I need to put that front back on again. This has got to be at least the 20th time I have screwed and unscrewed this front plate today. Give me one sec. Okay, so now that is on. It's going to come between these two tension discs. Around this side of those, just pull it through on this side of that little bump down there, coming around here and up so it has that spring working there. Give myself a little more thread. Threads coming apart. Scissors are crap. Okay, through here. Now why? Lots of things make this an extremely tight upper thread tension, and I need more thread to work with, so I'm just going to pull it. All right, so now we got this little guy here with that hook inside. So I go all the way around and then it catches in it, okay? And then there's a little slot down here in the needle. It's a tiny slot. I bet it's going to want to break my thread. Shoot. I'm just going to thread it straight through that opening because I think that little slot might have gotten crushed in at some point. Come on. Anyway, okay, so there it goes through there. And now I need to thread it from the outside, going through here. Don't make a knot. Did I tell you to make a knot? No? Okay. And I'm going to lift this up because it needs to go under this little toe here. All right. Let's see if it will pick up the bobbin thread. I really hope so. Yes and no. Oh my gosh. Look at that. It picked up the thread, but everything feels tight in there. I'm so frustrated with this machine. Okay. Now here's what I found before. I don't know if the leather needle is dull, if there's some other problem, but it was really fighting me on the leather. It didn't like fabric, so we're just going to try it on a piece of paper, okay? Just to see what happens. So, I'm just turning it by hand. It looks like my lower thread tension is so loose. Oh my goodness, look at that. So obviously I've missed that spring down below. I don't want to rethread that. It looks like it should be in there, but maybe it's spinning too freely because it's not the right bobbin. Maybe, because that is very free. All right, let's try it with the original bobbin, shall we? I feel like I'm that crazy lady just sitting in my shop talking to myself, but you know what I'm talking about, right? All right, let's see. Let's just hypothetically see if we can thread this bobbin on here without having to disassemble everything, okay? So, pulling this in here. Come on, it has to go outside and down and around. It's not going to. You have to be able to pull this thread low, okay? That's the whole thing. You have to be able to get this really low. But this is so high that you can't, unless maybe if I pull this from the outside. Feels like it's gonna break. Hey, did I do it? I think I did it. Okay. Why is it jerking on me? I don't even know. Wasn't doing that before. Okay, so we know type L will fit in, but I think it needs to be taller. 15 is tall enough, but I think the center hole, at least on the bobbin that I was trying, was too narrow, if anyone's asking. Okay, let's give this another try, shall we? Why? Why? I feel like the bobbin is jamming. Oh my goodness. Okay, so next day, full night's sleep. It was so hot and humid in that shop. So last night I brought her up into my sewing room. I actually have another YouTube channel that just does sewing, so I've got my camera up here for that. And I want to show you, I've got her together and she is sewing. So it turned out what the problem was with the stitch length and with everything was when I was putting that big bar all the way back in, you know, there was like a dozen little pieces inside of pieces and everything that had to be lined up. One of them was not clicked together all the way. And that is what made all the difference with the stitch length. And now it works perfectly and I can get really long stitches. But in the meantime, with all of that, my needle bar height got out of whack, so I had to reset the needle bar height. I had to, you know, redo the bobbin and everything. So, but I want to show you, I don't have her on a motor right now, but I think that I can hand turn her so you can see that she's going to make stitches. Well, she was a moment ago. There it goes. And this is still a very difficult machine to put a bobbin in, but once you get it in there, I'm thinking it's just going to stay. It's not the type of machine that you switch bobbin colors because it's made for leather and stuff. And I do have the original bobbin in there, which is that normal neutral kind of leather stitching color. So I may see if I can find more of those. But she's doing great. I actually had put her on my little universal treadle in the shop, and I don't know how much of the rant that I put in there. Let's see if I can lift it this way. There it goes. Use my big lever. I'm going to be putting on, but I did have her on there. So this is a very long stitch, which is exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to shorten it a bit and come over here. So once I put her on something with a motor, she honestly turns easily enough that I might be able to put her on a regular household motor, but I think that she would do a lot better with a servo motor on a small table. And so that's probably what I'll do. But hopefully you can see nice balanced stitches. You know, just for fun, I'm going to double up this leather here. Let's see if I can do this. Learned a lot on her. Oh my goodness, hang on a second. Yeah, she would definitely need a servo motor just because the amount of force for the leather to go, the needle to go through a double ply of leather, it needs a little oomph. Okay, so lift this up. Stretch this out a bit. So big stitches, and I wanted big stitches, you know, and it goes through, does really well. I am so pleased. I almost gave up on her last night, which would not have been cool. Hello. So yeah, she is doing great. So thank you so much for coming on this adventure. So the whole thing, you know, with getting her fixed is not so much, oh, new things that I need to show you, as much as just taking it apart and double checking and everything, the stuff that I did previously. So anyhow, she's an amazing machine. I have never seen another one like her out in the wild. If you have, let me know. But for right now, I think I'm going to keep her. I think I'm going to keep her just because she's so unusual. And honestly, out here on the farm, sometimes I do need to sew leather kind of things and stuff. So yeah, she's going to be great. So, and once again, thanks for watching. Thanks for putting up with my rants and everything. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.